Hello and welcome. We're here at Holistic Investments, and I'm Konstantin Kogun. I'm your host for today, and it's a pleasure to introduce our amazing guest, Camila Russo. Camila Russo is a journalist and author who is well known for her coverage of cryptocurrency and blockchain industry. She's a founder of the media company, the Defiant, which provides the news and analysis of decentralized finance, DeFi, and a wider crypto ecosystem. Camila was previously a Bloomberg News reporter, and she published a book titled The Infinite Machine, how an army of crypto hackers is building the next internet with Ethereum. And basically, she's amazing, inspirational person. By the way, we're going to talk about it. I'm here. I'm a big fan. Read it myself. Yes, and then I know that you have awards and recognitions. You've been recognized as a one of the top most influential people in crypto by Coinbase in 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah, Coinbase, Cointelegraph, yeah.
Cointelegraph. Okay, I think we met at one of the consensus events in New York. We have, we're in the same industry and share the same passions. So I just want to remind you also, as a disclaimer, that this content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or any other advice. Thank you so much, Camila, for gracing us an interview. It has been a while since we last spoke. We're lucky and excited to learn from you. And I'm just want to ask our first question. I'm just really interested about to hear about your story, about your journey. How did you decide to go from financial markets and jump into covering cryptocurrency?
I started covering financial markets basically at the very beginning of my career. I studied journalism. My first job was I was covering world kind of politics there, but then I left to do a master's degree at Northwestern University. And that's where I got interested in business journalism. After that, because I was interested in business journalism, I applied for an internship at Bloomberg and got hired at Bloomberg and then stayed there for the next 8 years and was always covering markets. So was in different markets teams across Bloomberg. So I started in the emerging markets team in New York. Then I spent 4 years in Argentina covering bonds, FX, the stock market there. And then I spent 2 years covering European stocks in Spain. And then I was back in New York covering macro markets. And it was during my time in Argentina that I got interested in crypto. So I was there between 2012 and 2015, 2016. And in 2013, I started researching Bitcoin because I was seeing that there was this growing community of Bitcoiners in Argentina. At the time, there was a big bull market in crypto, and Argentina, as always, was dealing with inflation and currency control. So Bitcoin was very appealing to Argentines. And so after that story, I was really just captivated by the space. I thought it was really revolutionary to have this currency that didn't depend on central banks and any financial intermediary. So back in New York in 2017, crypto was blowing up again, and there was a lot of demand for content around Bitcoin and crypto. So I took the opportunity to cover this space in a more dedicated way and became one of the first journalists at Bloomberg and in mainstream financial media to cover crypto on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's very admirable, and I remember those times where there was a crazy ICO era, right? And a lot of projects did not survive. I would say probably 95% from them. Now, but yet we now have an amazing ecosystem such as Ethereum, and I know you dedicated the entire story to it, which we can talk about it in the future. But also I want to point out something interesting that just in retrospect, right, to compare. So obviously Argentina now also is not doing great. The inflation is even higher than
100%.
100%, which is insane. It's really sad for the people. And Well, I want to ask you, in your opinion, now basically there's years, that you're researching the space and cryptocurrencies and, your amazing, newsletter, the Defiant, and all the analysis that you're doing, right? What do you think practically, we can do as an industry to help such countries with hyperinflation or just high level of inflation?
I'd say to continue building applications that can help savers, investors in countries that have high inflation rates and currency controls uh, preserve their assets. So I think things like stable coins, like lending protocols where you're able to earn a yield on top of stable coins in a non-custodial way are really key for emerging countries, because the use cases there are different from uh, what is interesting here in the US, right? Like in the US, I think we saw this wave of new users via NFTs. And that was kind of spurred by, at least like in the past couple of years, by a lot of speculation, by this kind of appeal of belonging to some exclusive club, just by almost like a fashion statement of having a Bored Ape, all these things about joining communities. And that's really exciting. It allows artists to have like a direct contact with their buyer and with their fans and so on. But the use case for someone in an emerging country is more, it can really change somebody's life. It's more than just making the financial system a little bit better, or having these additional kind of use cases that improve your life a little bit. In emerging nations, I really do believe that crypto can be life changing, because the trust in financial systems and in governments, because the currencies, all of that is so debased that crypto does provide a real alternative, like a lifeline. So all of the applications that go along those lines of preserving savings, of growing savings, more than kind of the speculative community kind of side of things, is what will really help people in emerging nations.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting opinion, and I agree with you, because I recently actually something interesting happened in Argentina. Minister of Economy, basically country's economic policy manager, they drafted a bill to encourage Argentinians to declare their cryptocurrency holdings using the inducement of discounted tax rates, right? So they're trying to fight with money laundering, because obviously, there's a different side of crypto, as we know, right? The people, when they're desperate, when they don't trust national currency, they start buying massively Bitcoin. And we've seen it across the world, in Nigeria, in Venezuela, in Russia, and many other places in the world. And I don't think there's a report that can show direct correlation, how it happens, but intuitively we can speculate a little bit about it, right? Now we're talking about Argentina, which has amazing, smart, brilliant people, where so far, as per what I've read, the latest reports, maybe you can help me better, that the estimated amount of people is about 2.5 million people, which is about 5 to 6% of the total population. Which is considerably lower, as you mentioned, than in the United States or any other developing countries. So there's a huge potential. So I'm curious, like, as as an inspiration in the space, you're right, and analytically approaching through Defiant, lenses, right? What do you think, like as an example, Argentina is only one of the examples. What do you think we should also do to make sure that the regulations will come up to to the higher pace, like, and it will come with there will be a bigger number of people that will be actually incentivized to buy crypto and explore the applications.
Yeah, so I think regulation is one side of it. I also think it's important to have good on ramps. That's key. Just good, reliable ways for people to get from their local currency to crypto. To have scalable blockchains, because Ethereum is great, but as we all know, transacting there is really expensive. So especially in emerging nations where you're earning I don't know what, like $1 a day or something, like, or a couple of $100 a month, like spending when at the top of kind of the bull run, you spend $100 on a transaction sometimes, and that's could be a person's like entire earnings for a month. So having that scalability is also key. So all the work with layer twos, I think will improve adoption. So on ramps, scalability, and clear regulation. I think regulation though will also will always be behind the like just the level of innovation that there is in the space. So I think what will likely happen, and what has happened historically, is that users will buy and use crypto and not wait for to have a say on whether they can from regulators. I mean, that's what's happening right now in the US. Like, I think everyone in the industry has been waiting for regulatory clarity basically since Bitcoin was invented, and we still don't have it. But everyone continues to build, and the industry continues to grow. So I think, regulatory clarity is definitely better and wanted, but I don't think it's a requirement for crypto to grow in a certain, like, in any specific nation.
I agree with you. Like, we should keep on building regardless, because one market or one collapse of the bank opens us an opportunity for others to participate, right? Which essentially happened recently. As of today, we're March 21st, right? And we already have like major banks in the United States. A lot of them, by the way, supporting crypto, are now they're being bailed out or collapsed. Now, it's a challenge in times generally for big institutions who are dealing with billions of dollars and processing, like, or staking, or somehow loan as a business, right? So I'm curious to hear your opinion. What are you actually bullish about, right? So you obviously have an in-depth research and opinion on the Ethereum community. As you mentioned, one of the challenges is gas fees, but you mentioned the layer 2 solutions. Is there any specific layer 2 solution that you are excited about?
Well, I really like to be impartial and be very objective in covering the space, especially leading the Defiant, which that's kind of what we do. We do cover the space in an objective way. We're not shilling anything. So I think I'm bullish on decentralization in general, and on blockchains and networks that can be truly decentralized, that can provide this layer for DeFi, for NFTs, for DAOs. I do think that blockchains can be a more efficient infrastructure kind of base for the financial system. So I'm especially bullish on DeFi, and about kind of layer 2s specifically. It looks like right now it's like a roll-up centric world. Like, it's this race between optimistic rollups and CK rollups.
Yes.
I'm not sure like which will win out, but just like looking at the stats, TVL is showing that that's what people are using and are building. So optimism is right now at leading with Arbitrum in the layer 2 space, and just in the next few weeks we'll see multiple different CK versions of rollups launching. So I think it's kind of still remains to be seen whether CK rollups can catch up with optimistic rollups. So I think like data shows it's the race between those two types of layer 2s. So we'll see.
Yes, and there's definitely a battle, right, between them right now. And Arbitrum recently was also shining with the launch of their token, right? So there's a huge bullish trend, and this is, by the way, not to say that I'm also like very like agnostic on both solutions. I think they both have amazing applications, right? But just even going from your blog, right, which recently you posted that right now traders bet on Arbitrum, right, and that's around second biggest layer 2 token, right, and those are just the numbers, right, and we don't know what's going to happen obviously tomorrow. Now the question is, obviously Coinbase with their announcements kind of endorsed a little bit one of those solutions, right? So again, trying to be neutral, I still want to ask you, what do you think when Coinbase is probably I think it's right now still number 2 exchange in the world. It has a huge ecosystem, a huge impact, especially in the Western world, especially in the United States. What do you think it means for the Arbitrum, let's say?
So, right, I think it was definitely a show of support for optimism, to have this kind of link to Coinbase and their layer 2 base, and yeah, it just like raises the stakes. The potential, what it implies to have a Coinbase support is that you have just like much easier access to the millions of users that Coinbase already has onboarded. Like you have all these users who have been onboarded to crypto, and they're in kind of the centralized world of crypto, and now they just need to take one additional step into the decentralized world and go on to layer 2s and DeFi and NFTs. So I think it can be a huge advantage, but I don't think that will kind of define who wins the race. I think it definitely will benefit them, but we've seen before that that leap between centralized exchange and decentralized crypto is not that easy. It's a different user base, but for example, Coinbase has its Web3 wallet, which I think competes with MetaMask. It doesn't look like they've made a dent in MetaMask kind of market share, and there's been so many just like giants trying to enroach in kind of in crypto. Like we saw Facebook / Meta announce NFTs, like the NFT kind of marketplace, and they quickly kind of folded that effort. So as soon as you have a giant making some crypto announcement, you assume, oh, like they'll be able to easily bring in their millions of users, but it's not that easy. So I think the same happens with Coinbase and their kind of support for optimism. Like it'll help them, but I don't think it'll decide who wins out in the end.
Yeah. And I will ask you even more provocative question, right? So which was also
Okay.
discussed by many people. So we have a positive side, like obviously, like the goal of Coinbase is to they publicly announced that it went on board more than 1 billion users, right? Which is very admirable, and I think it's a great thing to educate, customers. On the flip side, what basically Brian Armstrong announced that they're also thinking, he didn't officially announce it, but they're thinking about the KYC and AML measures. So basically, the idea there is to monitor transactions and carry out anti-money laundering checks on each customer, which will be the first layer two to do that. And if we think about it, that goes a little bit against that decentralization values, right? So I want to hear your honest opinion about it. Like, what do you think, and do you support it, or do you think there is like maybe somewhere middle ground?
I think choice is always the best solution. So I think that if, as long as we have the fully non-custodial layer twos out there that anyone can go and interact with using just their Ethereum account, and that's it. And in addition, Coinbase potentially adds KYC to their layer two. Uh, I think that's fine. I think there should be space for many different kinds of layer two solutions, and in the end, it's up to the user to decide what they feel comfortable with. I would imagine if Coinbase does go this route, then you can start to see a more like institutional focused ecosystem being built on that platform. So maybe the traditional banks that require this level of KYC AML with their counterparts, maybe they will want to use Base and not others. So, I think each solution can be tailored to a different type of user. So I wouldn't be against kind of a layer two doing KYC AML, because as long as it doesn't kind of preclude other layer twos that don't do that, then it should be fine.
And listen, I'm with you. I'm also kind of more of a rational person who's trying to be somewhere in the middle, right? And I think both solutions have place to exist. But don't you find it is a little bit ironic that DeFi is heading basically towards being controlled by the entities? It was built to kind of like be an alternative to replace, right?
Yeah.
So, and if we're going to be completely honest, we are going in not in the direction that we were supposed to go, right? So on a higher level of the philosophy of where we're going, what do you think what do you think is going to happen? Because it seems like more centralized entities like Coinbase and Binance and others are starting to control a huge amount of space of and this initial onboarding and of the users. That means there's going to be more people who go through KYCML and less users who's going to be more like DeFi natives, like meaning they're like going to use something that are, as you mentioned, non-custodial. So I want to hear your honest opinion, not the politically correct one, but like you as a user.
I think you kind of can't escape KYC AML in that bridge between fiat and crypto. So, Binance, Coinbase, like they'll have to do that because they need to comply with the regulations of where they're operating, and they're custodying real people's like people's money. So it's I think my opinions have shifted a bit with everything that happened with Celsius and BlockFi and all of the issues with CeFi, where CeFi lives in this kind of gray area where it's custodying people's money, but it's not complying to regulations. And it was, someone like a company like Celsius was going and speculating, taking really risky bets with people's money because it didn't have any oversight. So to me, that just like it made it clear that if you're custodying people's money, you need to comply with regulation. I think CeFi shouldn't be allowed to live in this gray area anymore. And so that can't be avoided to me. Like KYC AML, when you're custodying people's money, it should be done and there should be oversight over those entities. But once you've crossed this bridge and you've exchanged your dollars to ETH and you've transferred your ETH to MetaMask, once you're kind of in this decentralized world, then you should be able to just transact pseudonymously with your Ethereum account and not have to go through KYC AML and so on. So I think, like I said, I think you need it too. I think there would be a huge loss to humanity if this, like the decentralized side of the equation, was lost. So I think kind of your question was going towards that. Like if it's the case that DeFi and crypto becomes more and more institutionalized and everything requires KYC, then crypto has lost its purpose. So the purpose of crypto is to really transact in a decentralized way, in a non-custodial way, to not have to trust intermediaries. If you have to give away your information to intermediaries in order to transact, then it's not what crypto was built for. But I don't think that can happen. I think even if regulators try, the genie is out of the bottle. Like blockchains are already live, they exist, and people can and will continue to use them in the way that they were intended to. So I don't think that can even happen.
Okay, I'll take your word on this, right? So, and hopefully you're correct. So, before we jump into the infinite machine, and I have like several questions on this, like I want to quickly also ask you about another, like just for the transition, like latest speculation, which is just fun thing, like because the Bitcoin price is changing rapidly, and the Bitcoin is soaring, right? And one of the things that happened recently was an interesting bet of Balaji Srinivasan, like who is basically betting $1 million that Bitcoin, saying that Bitcoin, will reach, it will be in the range between 20,000 1 million per coin in 90 days, right? And he has its own explanation. I'm sure you went through this post. So I'm just curious, what is your stance on it? Like, are you somewhere in between, in the range of 100,000? Where are you?
Well, I mean, the reasons he gave for saying that Bitcoin will be at $1 million in 90 days is because he's saying that there will be hyperinflation in the US, that the banking industry will collapse, and that Bitcoin will become the kind of the replacement, the
harbor.
This like.
In a way.
Yeah, this safe haven. I don't think that will happen in 90 days. No. I think that it's a bit out there. Now the general narrative, the direction, I think is correct. I think we've seen that central banks have inflated away their currencies. The Fed and the dollar are no exceptions. The value of the dollar has continue to erode over time because of the Fed's stimulus and just crazy printing in basically since Bitcoin started. There's been this QE program with extremely low rates or zero rates, and that's had an effect on the currency. It's had an effect on inflation. We're seeing how tough it's been for the Fed to control inflation. It really hasn't been able to, with really aggressive rate hikes. And we've seen the consequences of those rate hikes with these banks collapsing in the past week because they had taken long treasury notes. So it's a big mess.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any doubt in that. Now, I think there is a question on whether Bitcoin becomes the safe haven in a scenario where the US dollar collapses and the banking industry collapses. I don't know. I think that leap might be a bit too aggressive. I don't think that's a sure thing that everyone, when the banking industry is collapsing, that everyone will suddenly say, "Oh, let's buy Bitcoin." You could argue that the rally the past week points to that. Maybe. I also think that there's just been a general macro rally because there's this expectation that the Fed will be less aggressive, less hawkish in raising rates, and crypto is just rising along with all risk assets. So I don't think it's specific to, oh wow, like banks are collapsing, let's buy Bitcoin. I'm not sure. So I'm a bit skeptical on Balaji's bet. I obviously am super bullish crypto long term. Like I said, I think it's a better infrastructure for finance. I think decentralized finance will win out in the end. I think Web3 will win out. I think we'll have a more decentralized internet, more decentralized finance, and that blockchains will be the base for all this. So yeah, long term, definitely. I don't know. Maybe Bitcoin does reach $1 million at some point. I don't know. Definitely not in 90 days. And I'm not sure if it's because of the reasons that Balaji said. So we'll see.
Yes, I I actually share your sentiment, right? So, but it was good to hear it from you as well, and I think it's an amazing summary, and it gives us an opportunity to jump into the infinite machine, right? So, specifically, first of all, I just implore people to read this book. I think it's an amazing, piece of history that will help people to understand, the importance of how it was initiated, all the challenges that the team went through. It's just fun to read, it took me 3 days. I completely digested
Amazing.
it.
Thanks so much.
Yes. But I also want to talk about your innovative way, what you're doing next with it, right? So you're ahead of a plot. You have an amazing book that is obviously accepted, and then now what you're doing with it, you're basically going to Cannes festival, right? And where you're talking about the movie adaptation funded by NFTs, and we're talking about iconic producers. Again, I don't want to oversell it. If you can just please tell us a little bit more about this part, because I think it's very exciting. First of all, for people to understand that this is going to screen, and secondly, to point out specifically, how did you come up with an idea to fund it with NFTs?
Sure. So yes, I'm super excited with how well the book has done, and by the fact that it's being turned into a movie. It's being co-produced by Scott Free. Scott Free is the production company of Ridley Scott, and they're the ones who produce, really huge movie titles like Gladiator, Blade Runner, Alien. So just amazing to be in that company.
Of course.
So that's still it's a slow process. I'm still waiting on the script. You won't see it on theaters this year, maybe next.
Let's be honest. Did they find you?
Yeah.
They reached out to you?
No. So another production company reached out to me, Versus Entertainment. They're based in Spain. and they loved my book. One of the partners is an investor in crypto. Like, he's been in this space since 2013. Like, they really kind of believed in the project. So I decided to make the movie with them, and with the requirement that it had to be like a blockbuster Hollywood film. Like, I told them, let's do it, but I don't want some, like, small artsy, like, European film. Like, this needs to be big. So they said yes, like, we have that same vision. And so they went to pitch the movie to different, LA based producers, and Scott Free liked it, and so we, agreed to co-produce the movie with them.
And now the rest is history. Super excited to even, like, hear when it's going to be, like, accepted, the script, and then it's going to be filmed. Like, and then let's talk about a little bit about the funding part, because I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities funding the movie with NFTs, and generally, like, people are looking into this model. So can you elaborate a little bit, like, how did you come up with it? How did you structure it?
Sure. So I'm executive producer of the movie, so that gives me some kind of say on how it gets funded. And as we were talking about funding, I proposed to get some of the funding via NFTs, because it just, to me, it makes sense. Like, we're producing the first major feature film about crypto. So just to be clear, like, this is not a documentary on Ethereum. And my book isn't really written that way. It's written like a novel. So the movie is going to be, like it's based on my book, but it has actors playing the different characters. There's a plot. Like, it's a feature film. And so it would be the first film of this type done about crypto. And so to me, it was important to try to fund at least part of it with crypto, right? And so it's the story of Ethereum. So I was just excited to produce this film together with Ethereum community, with Ethereum technology. So that's where kind of the idea of using NFTs came from. And then how we structured it, the idea is to have NFTs become sort of like backstage passes to the production of the Infinite Machine movie. So the idea is that each NFT has a kind of Easter egg attached to it. So, some of the things that they come with is the ability to be listed in the credits of the movie, to be an extra in the film. So there's like 20 NFTs that have like this extra trait, to be invited to the premiere and to be invited to one of the shooting locations. And other than that, you are part of this community that is kind of insiders to the entire production process. And the idea is to create like a DAO that has some level of say in production itself. So maybe we'll include NFT holders in certain decisions that need to be made for the movie. So that's kind of the idea behind the NFTs. And then the art itself, I really love, because I reached out to one of the persons that was involved in the design of the original Ethereum logo, and he's now part of this community of Cuban artists, and they were all kind of experimenting with NFTs. And so we brought on a curator from the University of Havana to find different artists across emerging nations who wanted to participate in the project. So we have 36 artists from Cuba, Venezuela, India, I think, Chile, Kenya, a bunch of other places, mostly from emerging nations, who created 10 different versions of the Ethereum logo. And then we split those images in tiles and then programmatically combine them in like 10,000 plus Ethereum logos, kind of mosaics. So it's this kind of explosion of Ethereum, like different colors, textures. It looks really nice. And, like we began the conversation talking about Argentina. Crypto in emerging nations is a topic that's, that I'm very passionate about. So I wanted to bring in these artists who really stand to, just really gain, have like outsized gains from participating in the NFT ecosystem. Wanted to give them a platform. So that's kind of the entire story behind the Infinite Machine NFT collection. We've sold half of the collection. We still have our kind of third and final mint to do. But I really wanted to kind of show more progress in the production side of the film before we sold those NFTs. So still waiting on the script to be delivered. And then we'll schedule the sale of the remaining.
Well, what's going to be the if it's not a secret, what's going to be the price of the remaining one?
No, we haven't said it. I'm still kind of unclear if it's going to be like a fixed price or, do some other sort of auction. So really just TBD on all the mechanics of that.
Got it. At least can we know at least like when it's going to be released? Q3, Q4?
I've been waiting for the script since October. So I would love to commit to a date, but I don't think I can. I mean, hopefully, this year is like as much as I'll say.
Okay. Well, at least we're hoping it's going to happen this year. Yes. And obviously,
yes. Yeah.
People can, I'm sure you can announce it probably on the Defiant and on your personal blog, right? On social media. So we'll share all the links to Camila's social media, so you can follow her, and then maybe apply to be the early birds in this new mint, right?
The Twitter for the NFT collection is ETH Movie, so you can also follow that Twitter account directly. We have a Discord, and it's pretty active. There's like a movie club and a book club, and all this stuff with that community. So it's been really fun because it's a new way of producing a movie. It's like you're building your fan base and community even before the movie is released. So it's like turning the process on its head a little bit. It's like you have your audience before you have the film. So we'll see how it goes. It's certainly an experiment. It's like one of the first movies being funded this way. So hopefully, we can provide some sort of template for others who will come after us.
No, for sure. I think the fact that you're already doing that, and you're basically following logically the narrative that you are providing to the people, right? You're the pioneer in this space, right? And there's no right or wrong. Like, it's just an experiment, as you mentioned. So sincerely wish you luck. I hope the lucky winners will participate in your movie, and those who will just have maybe one assets will somehow through DAO will have the ability to vote and to offer the continuation, maybe the second movie afterwards. What's the plot gonna be?
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, that'd be amazing to support not just a continuation of the Infinite Machine, but the idea is for this DAO to be able to support other projects down the line. So we'll see if that can work.
Yeah, and then yes, I'm obviously we're going to share the link, to the all the to the website, to the main collection. It's so right now public on the OpenSea, right? So far, it's, as per what I've seen, I have 412 ETH total volume, right? And that's already something, and you have more than 1,500
Yep.
holders. That's definitely a first step to build a community, loyal
Yeah,
supporters.
right. Yeah,
That's
it's doing
amazing.
okay. Like I'm proud of what we built so far.
You should be, as you should be. And yeah, that's definitely an amazing part. And I hope people will follow your example and create more movies like that. Will the community will be able to participate actively. So that's one thing. And the last thing I'll probably ask you is just this is an unexpected question. I never notify my guests that I'm going to ask you, and this is why it's so fun, because it's more personal, right? So obviously we all do what we do, but we're also human beings, right? And I want to ask you, what is it? Like you're doing a lot of things. You're doing amazing educational content. You're producing it, and you're innovating things. But what drives you in this, and what is the meaning of life to you, Camila?
Oh my God. That's a big question. Um, let's see. What drives me is I really believe there's an opportunity to make the world a little bit better. And I think because crypto is so new and is so disruptive that us building in this space so early just have this just outsized impact that we can make. So what drives me is being in this space early and being able to make a difference in my case in information and kind of helping the space become a bit more transparent by the way that we're reporting news and bringing data about DeFi and the blockchain economy. So that's really exciting to me to just be able to do this. And yeah, I think the meaning of life. I'm not sure about this, but I think it's the just like the ability to see this potential and to go for it. To me, that gives life meaning. It's not going so much with the current, but kind of going a bit further. Seeing that there's something bigger and actually fighting for it. Seeing kind of that potential there and believing that that you can make it. That's exciting to me. So I'll keep trying.
I think it's beautiful, Camila, and the fact that you are a fighter, the fact that you're an innovator, and you're keep on showing an example of how it can be done. I think that serves already a tremendous inspiration for the people who are still starting. Maybe someone will listen for the first time and they will just notice your brilliance for the first time, and the fact that you're showing up and just doing what you do. And I personally appreciate
Mhm.
what you do. I'm a big fan of your work, so really excited to release this. And thank you so much. I will share all our links, to your platform, to your personal website, and to the collection of the movie. And we will be excited to watch it once it will be released.
Amazing. Yeah. So will I. Fingers crossed. Thanks so much for having me, Constantine, and thanks for
Thank
the kind words.
thank you so much, Camila.